These are the 11 best things that I do to get myself out of survival mode, which can be fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and to instead regulate my nervous system and get into a more calm state. And I encourage you to listen to all 11 of these because depending on what has happened, one or two of these might be the best one for you to do, whereas if something different happens, there might be certain things that you can do that will be better than others. So have these sort of as like tools in your toolbox that you can always refer back to so that depending on what might have happened, you might realize like, oh, this would be helpful for me right now. So now we'll get into the 11 micro habits. And the first one is something that, especially if something happened that was kind of shocking, and so you're in shock and your amygdala is overactive, so you're either in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, plus it's mixed with the shock, then it might be really helpful to start with shaking your body. So shaking the body is something that most mammals do whenever we experience something scary, and I say we because we are mammals too, but you'll notice it out in nature, and especially if you have a dog at home, you might notice if ever they get scared and they survive whatever scared them and the scary thing is over, then they shake it off. So just shaking the body, and you'll see deer too, if deer are being chased and then they end up surviving, then they're going to shake their bodies too. And so if something happens to us that feels scary in the moment, then just shaking our body lets the body know like, okay, we're safe now, and then it prevents stuff from getting trapped in our bodies. So if we experience something that can be shocking or traumatic or scary, then it can very easily get stored in the body if we don't let it out and process it properly. And so especially after the thing happened, just shaking the body can let the body know like, okay, we're in safety now, we can start regulating and we can process what just happened to us. And then another thing that can really help is box breathing. And this is something that you can practice when you're not dysregulated, so that once you become dysregulated and you get into survival mode, it can become easier to implement because it already becomes more of a habit. So the way that you do box breathing, or the way that I do it, is I just inhale for 4 seconds, I hold for 4 seconds, I exhale for 4 seconds, I hold for 4 seconds. And the reason it's a box is because you can kind of visualize this box shape as you do it. So you inhale 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds. Exhale 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds, inhale 4 seconds, and just repeat that a few times, and it can really help to get you to regulate. And then another thing that really helps is grounding. So when we connect our bare feet or even our hands to the earth, or if it's not warm enough out, then you can have your hands connecting to a tree, and that's going to help ground. It allows the excess energy and stress that's within us to actually move out into the earth. And this can really help to reduce stress and regulate the nervous system. So being barefoot on the ground or using a grounding mat. So I've been using a grounding mat for the past couple years now, and I'm going to make a separate video about that because there are some things that are really important to be aware of before starting to use one. So once that video is ready, I'll link it up here and down in this video description. So if you're just inside, then going onto a grounding mat can be extremely helpful to ground your energy and start to regulate your nervous system. And another great thing you can do is if you've got a pet like a dog or a cat, then petting them can really help regulate the nervous system. Or if you've got a person that you can give a hug to, that can really help. Or just hugging yourself. So hugging yourself and rubbing your arms or tapping from one side to the other. I forget what this does. I'd love if one of you comments in the comments if you're aware of this, but there is something that I know it's like tapping on both sides does something to the brain to actually physically help regulate the nervous system. So giving yourself a hug and just little gentle taps on each side of the arms or the shoulders can be really helpful. And you can also imagine that you're soothing your inner child. So a lot of times when we feel dysregulated, it's actually there's this little part of us, like an inner child that's inside of us that's feeling scared or hurt. And so just being there for them and tuning in and really being present with the inner child. And if you're giving yourself a hug, then visualize it as the adult, wiser version of you that's hugging the little child version of you and really helping to soothe them. And I really like placing my hand on my solar plexus. So the solar plexus is the area below the chest where the rib cage meets, where your diaphragm is. And this is typically where if I feel anxious, I'll often feel it in either my heart or my solar plexus. And so I always place my hand on my solar plexus, sometimes on my heart too. And I give myself Reiki. So just placing my hand there gives a soothing energy healing. And if you're curious about Reiki or you want to become trained in that so that you can give yourself Reiki too, then you can join my Reiki course. So I'm a Reiki master teacher, and and you can become a certified Reiki practitioner through me and learn everything you want to learn about Reiki from that course. So I'll link that down below in the video description too. And the other thing that really helps is journaling or free writing. So whenever something's happening and you might just have all these thoughts, maybe you're more in fight mode, and instead of exerting that energy onto someone else and starting a fight or an argument, you can instead take some time to yourself and just let out all the angry thoughts that you have on paper. So take a paper, you're not going to keep this, you can destroy it afterwards. So you just free write and write out everything that's frustrating you or upsetting you, and write it all out and just let out your anger on the paper instead. And then that way you can get clarity from it. A lot of times when we journal, we can actually tune into a wiser version of us, like our higher self, if that's the concept you believe in. But we can get a lot of clarity around stuff, and we can help to soothe and calm ourselves that way, so that we can then come back to the situation in a more calm state. And instead of being in fight mode, you've then calmed yourself. And sometimes this can take 24 hours. Like, it can take a while depending on what has happened, what's being triggered in us. And so just taking this space and journaling can be really helpful to get into a better state. And if it's more a sense of fear and worry and anxiety that you might be feeling, then L-theanine can be really helpful too. So L-theanine is a component that's naturally found in green tea, and it's what helps to soothe the nervous system. So it actually counteracts a lot of that anxiousness, and you can take supplements that I just take 1 capsule of L-theanine if ever I'm feeling really stressed out, and it really helps to reduce some of the anxiety and stress. And another thing is to notice your surroundings. So if you're feeling like your emotions are really overactive and you want to just help, another way of grounding, so you can ground yourself physically to the earth, but to ground yourself to the present moment can just be to ask yourself, okay, what do you notice? And noticing your surroundings. Like, I notice a tree, I notice a rock, I notice the sky, like whatever you might be seeing that you notice, just kind of grounding yourself into the present moment. Because a lot of times whenever we're dysregulated, we're thinking of worst case scenario, like we're more like the prefrontal cortex is the rational part of the brain that has shut down, and the amygdala is overactive, which is the more animalistic part of the brain. It's the survival part that gets us into fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And so instead, to just take a beat and notice, okay, what are you looking at physically right now? This can help you, especially if you can take some deep breaths and do a few of these at the same time. So if you've got your Reiki, you can place some hands on you, or if you're just like hugging yourself or tapping, taking deep breaths, noticing your surroundings, doing a few of these at once can be really helpful too. And just pop an L-theanine and do the rest of them too. Or scent is really helpful to regulate the nervous system. And so if you've got scents that are familiar and comforting for you, then having something on hand can be really helpful with that. For me, I like having a beeswax candle. So that scent, that reminds me, like as a child, I remember we made handmade beeswax candles at school once, and that was like a really fun memory for me as a child. And so the smell of a beeswax candle brings me back to that, and it just helps soothe and ground me. And then some other things, like maybe there's essential oils that you really like, or maybe there's a specific type of flower. So something that can especially ground you or remind you of a pleasant or comforting moment can be really helpful to just have on hand. Another thing can be to listen to soothing music, or music that especially has really good feelings for you. So there might be times from a certain time in the past, like whether it's got nostalgia or just fun, like light, sort of happy or calming or soothing music can be really helpful to regulate the nervous system too. And sometimes we can take this energy, like if we've got extra energy from whatever is happening that's dysregulating us, if we listen to like pump up happy music, then you can start even like dancing or moving your body in a way that can just be helpful to move some of that energy through you so that it doesn't get stuck in your body. So music can be really helpful to get things moving or to just soothe us if that's what we're needing. And I would say one of the most important things that I kind of touched on earlier, but I wanted to include this as its own point, is that if we're feeling dysregulated and it's because of a conversation or a situation with another person, then often the best things that we can do is just to excuse ourselves and take time to soothe and regulate ourselves, and then come back to that situation from a more regulated state. So instead of being in an argument where you might get into fight or flight or freeze or fawn, then instead just letting them know, especially if you can start noticing. So one important thing that you can also do is just to notice the sensations in your body throughout the day, so that whenever something happens that is dysregulating you, then you can be a bit more present with the feelings. Maybe you notice your heart is racing now. So something happened and your heart's racing, and you're noticing different sensations in the body that are letting you know that you're becoming dysregulated. So as soon as you start noticing that, like the heart is palpitating and you're noticing that, then maybe it's just tune in with the breath and just to let the person know, like, I need to excuse myself, I need a few minutes, or can we take a beat and come back to this in a couple hours? I just need to process some stuff, or however you want to word it. It can just be really helpful to kind of end the conversation, or at least put it on pause if it's a conversation, or if it's a situation, then excusing yourself if you're able to really just practice these things and self-soothe. And maybe you need 24 hours to just process and move the body and do the hugging and journaling and letting out whatever emotions might be there in a healthy way, so that this can help to salvage relationships, which otherwise sometimes relationships can just be ended in different moments where you're in survival mode and you might get into flight where you just want to leave, or you might get into fight where it just pushes them away, or you get into fawn, and that never feels good either, because that means that your boundaries have been crossed and you're instead just gonna people please and disregard yourself in that. So it's actually abandoning yourself when you get into fawn mode. Or freeze, where you're just kind of doing nothing and like letting whatever happen that's happening. So it's really important to do your best to let the person know that you need to excuse yourself, and then put these things into practice to regulate yourself, and that can just help to have healthier relationships moving forward. So I'd love to know if these helped you. Let me know in the comments. And if you want further resources, then check the video description. I've got some free tools and resources for you. I've also got some energy healing programs and different things that can be really helpful. I'm also available to work one-on-one, so that can really help to move through different things that might be coming up too. And if you like this video, then you'll probably like that one, so you can check it out next. And let us know in the comments if any of these are your favorite things to do, or if there's something else that you really like doing. I'd love to have a discussion in the comments, and just to help each other out on this journey to regulate and become peaceful. So thanks so much for being here, and if this video helped you, then please give it a thumbs up. That really helps me, and I'll see you in the next video, and may you be happy, healthy, and free. Bye.